Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. There you go. Welcome to the final session of our 2024-2025 speaker series. My name is Wes Mullins. I am the Executive Director of Capital City Pride.
And I'm Jessica Collada. I am the Director of Education.
Before we get started, we want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor for the series this year, which is F&G, and they have a quick little video about how amazing it is to be at F&G.
We are turning aspirations into reality.
We are strong. We are significant.
We are strategic.
We
Offer customized solutions.
we are valued.
We are engaged in our communities.
We are driven by our shared values.
To help you turn your aspirations into reality.
We are
F&G.
Awesome. Thank you, F&G.
Thank you, F&G.
So tonight, we are honored to have the shame-slaying, hip-swaying, singing and songwriting phenom Flamy Grant with us.
Correct. Her music has reached over 1.2 million streams on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon.
Her debut 2022 album, Bible Belt Baby, reached #1 on the iTunes Christian music charts before they realized she was in drag. And her single, Good Day, debuted at #20 on the Billboard Christian Digital Sales chart.
Flamy is armed with a bold lip and a blistering voice, which brings hope and pride to all those who hear her.
So please help us welcome
Flamy Grant. Woohoo! Okay. One more time for Flamy.
How's everybody?
Well, thank you for coming and being with us tonight and for the whole weekend. There's lots more in store we'll talk about as we go through the evening
Yes.
tonight, but we're glad you're here.
It's so rare I get to be in a city for more than one night, so I'm excited to I'm gonna put down roots in these 3 days. I'm gonna get to know you, Iowa.
I was happy for that. We also have breaking news. A pope has been selected, and it is the first American pope from Chicago, and they chose the name Leo. They are a social justice advocate, looking out for the working
Thankfully,
class.
not the one Trump wanted.
Yes.
Good.
So yeah, we have lots to talk about tonight with the intersections of faith and Christianity. But before we get into all that, I think maybe to start with just you as a person. Who are you? For people who aren't familiar with your fabulous world, how did you come to be Flamy Grant? Just sort of your story of getting to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, so I was born and raised. And I was raised very, very fundamentalist evangelical, super in a bubble, right? Asheville's kind of a cool town, has a reputation for being this hippy-dippy, place where anything goes, right? And I never would have known that growing up because we were just kept in our little teeny tiny conservative world. So I was only allowed to listen to Christian music growing up. So while all my friends were discovering Xtina and Britney, I was like, Amy Grant, have you guys heard Amy Grant? And she is and always has been and always will be just my forever diva, right? So when, woo, I'm glad there's a woo for Amy.
Did you go to bed thinking about Michael W. Smith?
Well. Have you seen that man? He's not on our side, but I mean, look, we all have to have our first crush, so. I have an even more obscure one for you. Anybody remember Clay Cross? Yes. Okay, come on. Well, we're in the Bible Belt still, right? Yeah, of course y'all know. That man. Have you seen pictures of him?
I don't know.
We'll Google him afterwards. Just the blonde hair with the chiseled jaw, singing for Jesus. I was like, oh, yes. So anyway, all that to say, I'm sure we'll get into some of this, but, it took me a long time to kind of extract myself from fundamentalism, evangelicalism, but I moved into more progressive Christian spaces. I was a worship leader for 22 years in some way, shape, or form. Almost all of that was volunteer. There were only 2 years where I got paid. So now my rule is if I go in a church, I get paid now. It's reparations. So when the time came for me to, figure out more about myself, my identity and everything, I was really falling in love with drag in my 30s. It took me that long to even realize drag was a whole world. And I was just kind of laying in bed one night with my husband, and we were watching Drag Race, back episodes, streaming. And I was like, I turned to him and I was like, "Do you have a drag name?" I don't have one. Do you have one? And he was like, "Of course I do. It's Amanda Do It." Which was a real name he saw on somebody's mail once. So I know, right? Isn't that great? So I was like, well, I want one. But I've always loved the names that are based off of somebody's name, like a pun like Shaka Convict or Tina Burner, those kinds of names, Delta Work. So I was like, well, the only person who comes to mind for me when I say the word diva is Amy Grant, and that just kind of rolled off my tongue, and he laughed at it when I said Flamy Grant. And he doesn't come from religious world. He doesn't have any of the religious trauma I came up with, and he laughed. And I was like, okay, if you get it and you're laughing, I know there's a whole generation of youth group kids who will appreciate that. So this was before I had any inkling that drag would become a career for me. But I went that night. I went and I saved the handle on Instagram, Flamy Grant, and I just made it private. And it was just my own little secret. I didn't even tell him for a couple months that I had saved that. And it was my little secret for a while. And then, we'll get into some of this too, but snowball downhill to this moment. We've just been picking up speed ever since. But yeah, music has always been huge in my life. Always grew up singing in church, singing in choir in school and stuff like that. I wrote my first song when I was 9 years old. It was not very good, but I can still sing it for you, unfortunately. And I've been writing songs ever since. So, when I started doing drag, it just made sense to kind of merge those two worlds. I think it's RuPaul who says drag is what your drag is what you bring to it. That's what makes it yours. And I'm like, well, my death dropping and stunting days are behind me, unfortunately. So I got to figure out something else to bring to drag, but music seemed like the way to go.
So you grew up as a Bible Belt baby from
Yes.
Tennessee.
North Carolina, Asheville.
Oh, North Carolina. Okay. Even more Bible Belt. When you were younger, did you do any drag? Were there indications that you would fall in love with this?
Oh, yes.
What are the signs?
The signs, they were so there. And they're even still in the family photo albums. There are pictures of me in, mom's heels. I remember getting in trouble once for ruining a tube of lipstick. And that was when I was banned from ever touching her makeup. She had one skirt in particular that was this green, crinkly thing, and it was floor length on her, and you could twirl in it and it would spread out. But I was 4, so I couldn't wear it around my waist, so I just put it around my neck like a big cape, and I would just twirl in that skirt. I loved it so much. So yeah, the signs were there, but it got suppressed real quick. It was cute enough at one point for them to take a picture and put it in the family photo album, right? But I think what happened is they saw it was a pattern, and once they realized that, it was nope, we gotta squash this. In high school, I'm a theater kid, shocker. But it was a Christian school, so we did I couldn't even kiss Liesel in Sound of Music. We had to do a fake little stage kiss, on the cheek. But my senior year, I was very close with the theater teacher. She was also our English professor or English teacher, so the stereotype holds. And I just begged and begged and begged for us to do Hello Dolly, which was my favorite musical. I really, really want to do Hello Dolly my senior year. Can we please do it? And she's like, I don't think it's going to work for the school. And I just begged her and tried to wear her down. And she finally just looked at me and she was like, why do you want to do this musical so badly? Do you really want to play Horace Vandergelder? He's such a grumpy old man, and he has like one song. And I was like, oh, no, I definitely don't want to play Horace Vandergelder. I want to play Dolly. And it was kind of like an upsetting moment for me to like realize that I was pushing for this thing that even if we did the musical, there's no way I'd be able to do it the way I wanted to do it. So the signs have been there all along. I just, it's those blinders go on, and you don't realize it until retrospect.
Retrospect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't often see drag and Christian music together.
Yeah, name one other time. I had never seen it for sure. That's, Carmen music videos were kind of draggy.
They were.
They had lots of costumes and cool stuff, but yeah.
So, on your breakout hit, Good Day, you talk about, there's just a very strong spirit of inclusive faith, something that kind of, when I listen to the song, it's like wraps itself around you and really kind of pulls you back in, by the heartstrings. But then in your If You Ever Leave, you address some of the trauma that you had growing up. So I'm wondering how you kind of wrestle with that complexity, because now, it's part and parcel together a little bit with some of your career.
I love that you brought up these two songs, because one is a direct response to the other. So Good Day is the song that it hit #1 back in 2023. And it's a song I wrote when I was a worship leader. It preceded the drag, but I was at an affirming, inclusive, progressive church in San Diego, and I went to a small group one night that was for queer folks. It was gay Bible study, is what it was, and I didn't want to be there. I was really grumpy about it. At the time, I was very much not interested in calling myself a Christian, because, as we know, you say that, and you have to immediately follow it up with 8 bullet points explaining, but not that kind, And it was just all too much and exhausting, and I was like, ugh, what's the point? No, I'm not going to call myself a Christian. And but I was still leading worship at this Christian church, right? So, and we started gay Bible study, so I'm the gay worship leader. I was like, I should probably show face. So I go, and it's, awkward as it can possibly be, just a room full of people staring at each other in their eyeballs when I walked in, and the facilitator comes in and says, okay, let's go around the room, and everybody, let's do an icebreaker. Would you all please share how you reconciled your faith and your sexuality?
Just a light icebreaker.
A little quick icebreaker, yeah.
I was like, absolutely not. No, this thing is about to go off the rails. I got to fix this. This is, we're not doing third date here. So I raised my hand and I was like, well, I'll go first and set the tone and get this, I'll get this, train back on course. So I'm like, I don't call myself a Christian. There's nothing to reconcile. Next. And I'm so proud of myself in that moment, because I'm like, okay, now everybody else will follow suit and we won't have to play this stupid game. And of course that is not what happened, because everybody else decided they would be real, actual human beings who got vulnerable and shared their stories. So we went around the room and everybody, that's the only thing we did that night, by the way, was the icebreaker, because then it was, we did that and then it was time to go. But we go around the room and everybody is sharing their story and getting vulnerable, and I start to realize and recognize that there's this common thread that in everybody's story where they're all saying, they're all talking about why we're still here. Why am I doing this? Why am I in church? Why, as a queer person, do I care about this institution that doesn't want me, by and large? There are good churches, obviously, and I know probably several of you are here tonight. But, it's hard to be a queer person in the church in America, right? Why are we doing it? And everybody had their own answers to that question, but the thing that I heard everybody say that night was, well, I do it because I know what it's like to come up in this space and have no possible representation, no idea, no example that there could be a happy, healthy, hopeful future for me as a queer person, right? I never had that given to me. And at the very least, if I stick around, if I elbow my way into this space and plant my feet and say, no, like, I'm here, I'm queer, then at least that next generation of queer kids coming up in the church can see me and I can give them the thing I didn't have, right? So I thought that was beautiful to listen to. I felt about this big after hearing everybody share their stories. So I went home that night and I wrote Good Day. And it's truly just one of those songs that wrote itself. It was a gift from the people in the room that night. And then we started singing it in our church, and it kind of became our church anthem. And then when it came time to record my first record, I didn't have 10 songs that I had written as Flamy yet. So I was like going back through my archive and finding things, and I found that song and I was like, this actually feels better coming out of the mouth of a drag queen, I think. And so and then, next thing that happens is, there's a viral moment on Twitter with a guy who's, whatever, we'll probably tell that story. But so it blows up and it hits #1, and now I get calls from churches all the time saying, hey, can we sing Good Day in our Sunday morning service? And I'm like, absolutely. You just have to tell them a drag queen wrote it. That's the rule. So I love that so much. And I have a really complicated relationship with that song because it was written for such a specific moment in my own very personal history, right? And I feel like sometimes the way it can come across is that it's saying, like, as a queer person, it's your job to stick around and, endure all of this hardship because there's another generation coming and they need you. And it's not that there's not truth to that. It's just that I didn't want the message to be that is like this standard or the expectation or every queer person's job, right? Because it's not. It's a volunteer role. There are people that are suited for that kind of work. They have the disposition, they have the thick skin or whatever, the personality to handle. Until there it is. Never mind. Thank you. Everybody say thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where was I? So it's a volunteer role, right? Like we do need that. We need people to be brave and like take up space and give hope to a generation of kids who are still going to be coming up in these spaces where they're being told they're not loved or not good, not worthy. There's something wrong with them, all that stuff. And at the same time, you're never going to heal when you're going back week after week to a place where they're cutting you, right? Like those wounds are just always going to stay reopened. And I wanted to kind of write a song that balanced the scales a little bit, and that is If You Ever Leave. And it's the song that, it's the flip side of that coin, and I wrote it as a direct, like I had Good Day in mind as I was writing If You Ever Leave, because I just wanted to normalize leaving. We don't have a lot of that in culture. We're the stick-to-itiveness, we have to be tough and endure and all of that. And I'm like, you don't. You don't have to. If it's better for you to get out of a really toxic situation, especially toxic religion, high demand religion, then you should do that. You should go and you should not feel bad about that. So there's so much it's not one or the other. It's not black and white. It's gray. It's nuanced. It's personal choice and personal decision, and it can be different things at different points in your life, right? Like I left. I have left again. I'm not a member of a church anymore. I still find myself in churches all the time, but like I said, I get paid now. But yeah, it's such a nuanced thing, and I hope that the duo of those two songs maybe help bridge some of that. But that was yeah. Thanks for pointing those two out because they're related.
So, in that toxicity of like evangelicalism, fundamentalist Christianity, Christian nationalism that's so much like on the rise at this point in the world and stoked currently by the political environment, like where do you really stand on the ability for Christianity itself to even be redeemable in this awkward place that you are, as like you've sort of been branded as like the Christian drag queen, and I'm not sure you even love that. So
Yes, I
talk to us
have.
about that.
I don't love it. Full honesty, I don't love it, and I am actively taking steps to try and not fully rebrand. I mean, my name is Flamy Grant. I did this to myself. But at the same time, I don't want to be the Christian drag queen. That's not my goal. I would love to be an entertainer, like, period, right? Like, I just want to be an entertainer whose art people enjoy. However, part of my job is going around, and I probably sound a little cynical talking about how I play churches and I have to get paid, but at the same time, it's an honor. It really is an honor to get to go. I've played, I don't even know how many, I'm sure over 100 at this point, churches across this country, and in other countries as well. And every time I'm in a space where I get to really just dip in, right? I'm dipping my toes in, and I come in, and the church is putting its best foot forward, and I know that, and I know they have their stuff going on and their issues, and but at the same time, I get these moments of just really like ecstatic, high energy, beautiful acceptance and love, and the way things could have been, right? Like that's what I always think about. I always think about, man, I'm not going to stand up here and defend 80s and 90s evangelicalism because it was bad then too, but I wasn't raised in what we have today, right? The people who brought me up were unfortunately participants, sometimes victims, sometimes active participants of the system as well. But so many of them genuinely believed that love was the answer, right? And tried to train me that way. And I think that's why, the older I got, the more of a disconnect I felt from what I saw happening in the church at large, because I was like, well, this isn't what I was taught. Like, there's so many stories you could use as the example there, but we're supposed to go find we're supposed to leave the 99 and go find the one, right? Like, we're supposed to be this inclusive space that is for everybody. And I see that in action in churches all across the country. And so it does give me some hope. But I think I try to choose my words carefully. Evangelicalism, no. She's done. We got to let her go. There's nothing to save there. This is one drag queen's opinion. But I'm super cynical towards evangelicalism, and that is specifically the thing I was raised in. And I don't, is anybody else like specifically from that world? Yeah, right? There have long been amazing traditions that I never knew about growing up because I was told that they were, not real Christians, right? Lutherans? No, they're not real Christians. I mean, the arrogance, right? But that is literally, like, those words were literally said to me in Sunday school. Like, no, Lutherans, Methodists, no. If you're naming yourself after, like, a man like Martin Luther, then that's not the way we go. We have to be, we have to name ourselves after Jesus. So that was the rationale they used for that argument. But there are traditions that have long been affirming and just, not even, like, super, like, loud about it, but it's just kind of been the norm. And now those traditions are realizing, like, oh, we got to be loud about it because look at the world. Like, the whole, like, we've been colonized. Like, the faith has been colonized by this evangelical power trip, that's all I can ever say about evangelicalism anymore. Is it's just in bed with power, and that's all it cares about anymore. So no, that one, it can go. And I'm fine dismantling and tearing down and doing my part to, kick it out the door. But I think I'll always have a respect for faith traditions that are doing the work. And it's going to be imperfect. Nobody's going to get it right all the time. And there will always be that one disgruntled member of the church who had to leave or whatever. But no, I think I'm not going to sit around and try to save it personally. But I am grateful and I'm glad to see that there are people doing that work. I think is the best I can say about that.
I will say that I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. As one of those kids who grew up with no image of what it could look like, it would have saved me a decade or two of struggling. I mean, I went through ex-gay reparative therapy, conversion therapy. Some of you know this by different names.
Exodus, did you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Oh, good. I should have met you there because other things happened at those places too.
Did you ever go to like the conferences?
They did. Put a whole bunch of people who are not gay together at a conference and just see what happens.
And then like randomly pair them up with members of the same sex, in your bedroom. Like, yeah, yep. Fun.
Let's have an accountability circle.
They don't call it that anymore, but yes.
Sorry, what are we talking about? But I do think that to use a churchy word, your witness in all these churches where you go, you're the only drag queen that's ever going to be on the stage at churches. If you're not doing it, nobody else is doing it. And so that I just want you to realize the power that you do have and the importance of that.
Thank you. And thank you. And I guess I do see, I talked a little bit about how it's a volunteer position, right? And I feel like that is something I am suited for and really, without trying to get like what do they call it? A delusions of grandeur complex or whatever about it. Like for such a time as this, like I feel like right as I was starting drag was when the whole grooming talk really like took off, and I was like, hold up. I was groomed. I know what it is to be groomed. Drag ain't it, baby. Like my evangelical faith groomed me from the youngest of age. And so I mean, for lack of better words like ministry or calling or whatever, like I think they do apply to what I'm doing, but at the same time, I kind of hope I don't have to do it forever. And I do hope there are other drag queens who will carry that mantle. And I think there are actually. And that's been one of the joys of doing this job is meeting other drag artists. The first time I got asked to give the sermon in drag at my church in San Diego, I was like, I had no context, no frame of reference for that at all. And it's actually what led to the first like viral video I ever had on TikTok was because I made a video where I did one of those, quick changes where you cut and there's more makeup on every scene. But I was giving a 60-second sermon basically just to get a feel for it and see how it would work. And that was because I didn't know what drag in a spiritual context looked like, or I had never seen it. And now I have in so many places. In fact, there's a whole annual gathering called the Drag and Spirituality Summit. Yeah, have you heard? Let me tell you. I went to the first one, and then every other year since then, which I think they're going into their fourth year this year. I've had conflicts and couldn't make it, but I'm hoping to make it this year. But yeah, it's my friend Bonnie Violet. She's in Idaho, and she's a trans drag artist who started this thing called this Drag and Spirituality Summit. And the first one was super, super small. There were maybe 20, 25 of us who gathered in, where were we that first year? I don't remember. A city in this country. I've been on tour for a long time, y'all. And it was just like this beautiful, it was like, oh my gosh, like you do this too? Or you lip sync to like church music, or you like give sermons in drag, or you do this. And so there are lots of people out there doing it. I think I just got lucky in that, I had that viral moment with the guy who didn't like me very much. And so people heard about me because, Rolling Stone could not resist publishing a headline that said "Drag Queen tops Christian music charts" because that's clickbait.
Yeah, she did.
That's clicks for them. So, but no, there's quite a few out there doing this work, and I'm more than happy to like pass that mantle on, pass that torch. Like, there should be more doing it.
See, Catholics have drag in spirituality because baptisms are in dresses. It doesn't matter what the sex or gender of the child is. So Catholics have drag from the very beginning.
The Pope's in drag too, honey.
Exactly.
Come on.
It's all drag.
It is a very blurry line between like, Sunday morning at the Pentecostal church and Sunday morning at drag brunch. Like it's, I mean, everybody, you're giving money away, communion or tips. There's alcohol involved. Like it's a very blurry line.
There's anointings. So Wes had said that you've had the awesome privilege of being yourself, which is those are hard shoes to fill. I'm sure all of you understand being people who are alive, that just filling your own space in the world is an awesome responsibility. And that you would be the only person in drag who could be invited to churches. And that is because of a viral moment. Tell us about that, how you got to the top of those country charts.
This is such a crazy story. Like, who could have ever foreseen this happening? But I put out my first record in October of 22, and nothing really happened. Like, I was an independent artist. It was my first time releasing music as under the name Flamy Grant. I was really happy with the little handful of people who found it, and I was not yet doing drag full time. I still had my day job. I was, I was touring when I could, but not like now. And 10 months after that album comes out, this guy, his name's Sean Foyt. I usually don't say his name, but we're having a chat tonight. So his name's Sean Foyt. He's a self-described MAGA worship leader. Like, that's what he calls himself. Yeah. So there's pictures of him, like the president signing his guitar in the White House kind of thing. Like he's kind of a leader in that world, has a big following. And he finds out about Flamy Grant and that there's a drag queen doing Christian music. And he's obviously not very happy. That actually happened because of a night where I played for my friend Derek Webb. Are y'all familiar with Derek?
Yep.
Okay, 2 of you, yay. The rest of you have homework, okay? Derek Webb was the lead singer, one of the lead singers of a band called Caedmon's Call, which was a huge band in the late 90s, early 2000s. He has had a solo career since then for 25 years. He's just one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's an ally. He has family who are queer, and he just released a record called Survival Songs that he wrote in a month. And wrote and recorded in a month and released. The work ethic of this man. But it's an entire album specifically for us, for the queer community, and it's his perspective as a father, as a husband, a brother, a friend, and I might have a little feature on it. And anyway, why did I get off on Derek Webb? What was the question?
How you got,
Oh, well, we're telling the whole story. Right. So, sorry. Shiny. So I went and I opened for Derek Webb. This was in the summer of 2023. So 10 months after my album came out, I went and I opened for him. And there's like a picture of me, him, Jennifer Knapp, who was another major selling artist of the late 90s, early 2000s, who later came out and is now an amazing, always was an amazing artist, but now a very amazing gay artist. And then Plum, who at the time, Plum had really just started to, she was another big Christian artist back in the day, and she had just started to like speak publicly about being like, what are we doing to gay people, y'all? This is not good. So, and now she's a full-blown ally herself. Anyway, so like it's kind of a who's who of 90s Christian music, and then me in this picture. And so he finds this picture and he's like, what is going on? All these people from my world are posing with this drag queen, and he's very mad about it. So he tweets and he says, I don't remember the whole original text, the whole original tweet, except for one line that said, "These are truly the last days." And I was like, are we the four horse girls of the apocalypse? Like, what, I mean,
Girls of the apocalypse.
So you know, I didn't know anything about this guy at the time. If you've heard about him, you've probably heard about him because he was in the news during the pandemic for hosting all those big worship services where nobody was wearing masks. Like, it was like right at the height of the pandemic. So he's that guy. So I knew nothing about him except for that, but it was Derek who was like, hey, this is kind of an opportunity. Like, this guy's got a huge platform. You could like spend some gold here. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll tweet back. And I just wrote, last days? No, babe, we're just getting started. Which was the right amount of pissing him off, I think, because he wrote back and he was like, well, it's a good thing that no one listens to you or cares what you do. Oh. And I'm a drag queen. And that sounded like a challenge. So the one place where I had some viral stuff happen was on TikTok. And I had like 100,000 followers on TikTok, which doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't know how to use TikTok anymore. But during pandemic, I was really good at it. And so I got on my little TikTok account and I was like, okay, here's what's happening. I laid it all out for everybody. Here's what this guy says. He says, no one listens to me or cares what I do. Do y'all want to prove him wrong together? Like, what we could do is everybody goes and buys my song on iTunes, which it was 2023, so no one even knows iTunes exists anymore, but it still does. And if you go and you can kind of hack the charts a little bit, because since nobody buys MP3s anymore, everybody just streams them. When you do spend actual money on an MP3, you can have a big impact with a smaller group of people. And that's exactly what happened, is everybody went to iTunes, they bought my album instead of just streaming it. And that's what shot Good Day and the record itself. The whole record was the *1 album for 9 days on iTunes. So it was kind of cool to be like the literal face of Christian music on one app. It was just like a big pink wig, like, yeah. And literally that happened a month before my husband and I moved back to Asheville, North Carolina, where we live now. And that plan was already in the works, and it was in the works because I wanted to do this job full time. I did not think I was going to be able to do it full time immediately. I was like, well, I'll get a side hustle or whatever, but like, let's move back to the Bible Belt. It's where I'm from. It's the kind of culture that I speak to in my drag. And then let's start building up this little career. But little did I know, I was going to immediately go into doing this full time because that guy like got me in Rolling Stone. So thanks, Sean.
So we talked a little bit before this about what's happening here in Iowa, that we've had we're now the first state in the nation to remove civil rights from a protected class of trans people. This is where you say boo.
Boo.
And we've also seen a real attack on drag, though some of those bills didn't end up passing here. There's only so many things that you can be responsible for in the world, right? But like in some ways you are a voice, a mouthpiece to be able to stand, like what you're seeing this is happening. Iowa is not unique. This is happening all across the red state. So like what are you seeing? What are you learning from seeing this everywhere?
Yeah, it really is happening everywhere. And I mean, one of the fortunate things about, I think, drag is that it just does attract people who kind of have a bold, brash, I don't give a, attitude. And so like drag artists are just kind of well suited to be on the front lines of this thing. For me, where it really hit home right away was, so that moment happened with, hitting #1, right? A month later, my husband and I are in a U-Haul moving across the country from San Diego back to Asheville. And it just so happened that I had been booked as the headliner for Blount County Pride, which is a teeny tiny county in East Tennessee, kind of near Knoxville. and you know it well. And so I was the headliner at Blount County Pride, and the way it fell, it literally lined up with our move. So we rode into East Tennessee with the U-Haul, and I got out and I did Pride. And then we got back in the U-Haul and finished moving. Like that was.
I'm getting some serious Beverly Hillbillies to this.
It was.
Here's me and all my stuff.
Here I am, y'all. Just a California girl coming back home. Yeah. So but anyway, so we're on that drive, right? And I get a call when we're in Albuquerque. I get a call from the Pride organizers, and they're like, "Hey, a local district attorney here has decided he sent us a letter, and he's saying that he's going to enforce Tennessee's drag ban, which had already been ruled unconstitutional in Memphis. George's theater, I think, or Friends of George theater. There was a theater there that had sued and won in the first court. But this DA was like, well, I don't care. I'm going to enforce it anyway. So he sends a letter to Pride, and it's a very threatening letter. He's like, if there is any drag, we will be enforcing this law. And so they immediately got in touch with the ACLU, and then they called me, and they were like, the ACLU is, saying like it would be really helpful to have like an artist who's actually going to be impacted by this on the lawsuit. So what do you think? And I was like, I mean, we're literally moving back home to do this work. I didn't expect it to happen like while I was still in the U-Haul, but like I thought it might take a second before it reared its ugly head, but it was right there. And so I was like, of course, like whatever you need. And so I'm still currently on this, listed as a plaintiff on this lawsuit that is still active. Things take some time in our system. For a minute, it kind of went away because the Friends of George lawsuit superseded it and was the one that everybody was following. But then that one actually got struck down in a higher court, the Sixth Circuit. I don't know law. I don't understand it. Which is what I told the ACLU. I was like, y'all have to do all the work, but you can have my face. Like. I'll show up. Anyway, so our lawsuit is active again in Tennessee, and who knows where it's going to go. But I've been back like 2 or 3 times to East Tennessee to do rallies with them, to work with them. I've really built like a strong relationship with that community, and it's a really small community, right? And at one of our rallies, there was a big counter protest across the street, and we were just as loud as we could be, and as bright and colorful and loving as we could be. Right, that was the whole spirit of our side of the street. And I remember at one point a car drove by, like beeped its horn, and said, the guy driving the truck said, get out of here. Oh, get out of our town is what he said. Get out of our town. And like, without missing a beat, like 4 or 5 queers just turned on their heels and they were like, it's our town too, Like I am so overwhelmed and impressed at people who live in these places that the rest of us look at and we're like, oh, don't go there. That's not safe. That's hard. Like be careful. Take care of yourself. I hear that all the time as I tour, and I almost take offense at it now because I'm like, the people who are in these communities like deal with it on the daily, and they're not backing down at all. Like, why would I? Of course I'm going to go to these places because that's where it's needed the most, right? And so I'm floored and in awe of, it feels like sometimes the smaller the community, the more connected and powerful they are, because they really, really have to rely on each other so they know each other. The community is real, it's not just like, let's do a rally kind of thing. It's like, no, we're gonna change the face of our city council because our lives are at stake here and we can't all move. That's not a thing that everybody can do. So I feel like I've gotten off on a rabbit trail here, but Love it. Love to see it. We love to see it.
We want to give time for people to ask questions, but we've talked a lot about church stuff and all that sort of thing. So I want to ask you about a lot of your music is really more just like country folk music. And I know you've won a lot of awards at folk festivals and stuff around the country. And so what is it? I have no sense of what it's like. That's also not the most drag place I've ever thought of in the world. So what's it like to show up in those spaces, and what are you experiencing there?
This is a great question. Thank you. There's a difference between country music, as most of us understand it, and the folk music scene. And folk music, they love me. they're ecstatic. Like, they can't get enough. They're like, oh my gosh, we have our own drag queen. Like, I mean, it's like the folk music scene is just it's hippies. You know, it's like it's populated by largely older generations of folks who have always kind of been like, hey, free love, man. You know, like it. And then the up and coming folk scene is all queer. Like I think you have to be queer to be a folk artist. I think it's a requirement now. I don't know. I don't know any straight. I'm just kidding. But so folk music, like. It's so great, and that is where I have built like my professional community. And I go to all the like little folk conferences, and I love getting to play folk festivals and things like that. Country music is different, but it is changing, and there is like a really powerful contingent, I think, of up and coming queer artists who are helping to change the face of country music as well, and. It's exciting. I feel like it's such an exciting time in the music world because we have the most important stuff to sing about. You know, like it's not just like I'm gonna write a song about my truck and my dog. You know, like we've seen that and we've had enough of that. But now we have like people who are like their roots are in country music. Their roots are in the small rural places that country music really comes from, and they have so much to say about what it's like to grow up in those spaces as a queer person, and it's really powerful art, and it's good music. Like they're good musicians, so I think it's an exciting time to be involved in all of it, and I love it.
Okay, our walking question for you and me to go to the audience. The first question that I had when I first heard of you was like, oh, Amy Grant's people are going to sue him. So has Amy Grant called?
No. But I have talked to so many people in Amy's like orbit and circle who know her or have some sort of connection, and I don't want to speak for her, but here's what we do know about Amy Grant. She has become a somewhat outspoken, not our most outspoken ally by any means, but a somewhat outspoken ally, very publicly. Like she's made those statements now. I have a screenshot of someone who gave her my record on vinyl. They came to my show. They bought 2 vinyls. They asked for me to sign both. And when I was signing the second one, they were like, will you make this one out to Amy, please? And I was like, sure, of course. Amy Grant? I was like, what? and they were like, yeah, I'm going to give it to Amy. I'm friends with Amy. And I was like, okay. I don't even remember what I wrote on it. I was so like freaked out. And then, so I have a screenshot of the text exchange of Amy saying, thank you for my record. So it's in her house, I think, unless she's, tossed it out at this point. But I think she's cool with it. I don't think I'm going to get a cease and desist letter anytime soon.
So we're going to open it up now to questions from the audience. So if anyone has any questions for Flamy, raise your hand. Great, good job, guys. Oh, here we go.
Right over.
Hi, I'm Natalie. So my question would be, if you were to take away all the rules of church, right? So the building, the book, the songs, everything you've ever been taught about it, what does your version of a new church look like? What is your hopeful version of a space for community and faith without the rules? Like we can add back the things that are great, but like what does that look like if you just reimagine from the ground up? what that looks like.
Wow. So basically, world build a church from scratch right now. Gotcha. No, here's I think what is interesting about that. This is, again, I'm one drag queen. I am one person speaking for myself right now. My journey with church has led me to a place where I have stopped believing in the power of belief. So these communities exist because we've all agreed to subscribe to the same list of the same creed, right? Like check, check, check. We all check these boxes and then we can go to church together. That's generally how it works. There are a lot of communities that are like challenging that obviously now, which is, I think is great. But for me, like my journey with my own spirituality, it was so important growing up that I believe all the right things, right? That was everything. And so even when I didn't, even when I like had questions about it, I had to say, well, yes, I subscribe to all these things. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting kicked out and losing your community. And that can be really scary and painful if that's the only space you've ever known. I think for me, my journey with spirituality is I've stopped caring about belief. And again, this is just for me. I respect other people who have beliefs, but for me, belief is never the thing that helped move me forward. It never helped make me feel more connected to other people. It never made me feel like a more whole person. Practice is what has been helpful for me. So, thank you. So for me, that means like, here's the thing about belief, right? By definition, it's not true. That's why we have to use the word belief. It's a thing we hope is true. I'm going to choose to assume the truth of this thing, but I can't say it is truth. And that's why I have to call it a belief or faith, right? And for me, that's just never been helpful. Hanging my hat on the hope that one day I'll get that mansion with next to the golden street, right? Like, it does nothing for me. I'm not very interested in that. What has been helpful for me is actual physical practices with my body. So that has meant everything from like yoga to meditation to like just moving my body outside in nature, those kinds of things. Connection with other people. So the gathering part of church was always one of my favorite parts of it. It was like being with other folks. What other practice? Music, like the musical practice is very helpful, like the actual sound waves. There's science behind what sound can do for our bodies. So like for me, I think it would be like church would look like all of my favorite practices and just no creed, none whatsoever. I mean, you can hope whatever you want to hope, but insisting that everybody has to believe that God looks like this or will behave like this or judges this way. No, that's the stuff that I have shelved and have moved on from. I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Hi, my name's Alicia.
Hello, Alicia.
I am a big fan of yours, so thanks for coming out here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit because one of the things that has really been impactful for me is I grew up in the early 2000s church. So in the time of like I Kissed Dating Goodbye and when Christian emo was all over the radio stations. And I remember growing up and being told like, you're not a good Christian, even though I'm listening to Reliant K because Reliant K is on the secular radio station, even though they're singing about God on a secular radio station. And so that's actually how I found out about you is through Derek Webb, because Derek Webb was really big in the early 2000s, and especially in the circles I was in the early 2000s. But one of the really cool moments, and I remember seeing the pictures and just crying, was when you, Semler, and Derek went to the Dove Awards. Can you tell me a little bit about why you guys did that, how that happened, and maybe the experience you had doing that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I completely relate because Amy Grant also got all kinds of flack when she went, secular. She was, so many Christians had to disown her at that point, and I never did. I was like, no, she's still my diva, right? I know. Yeah. I've met. I don't remember the name of the guy from Reliant K, but I've met him, and he's cool. Yes, Matt. Yes. He's very handsome. That makes sense. Okay, so yes, the Dove Awards. Do we know what this is? It's basically the Christian Grammys, and it happens in Nashville every year. And so Semler, in case you don't know, Semler is the first out queer artist to ever have a #1 Christian track or record on the charts. They did the same thing I did just before I did. They got a #1 on iTunes, and it was a big deal, just as big a deal, probably a bigger deal when they did it as when I did it. And they got all kinds of press and stuff. So Semler and I kind of both had big years that year, 2023, right? We were like, we've both had major headlines written about us. We both had this #1 moment. We've both pissed off a lot of people and also earned a whole new group of fans. And we both released Christian albums. So why aren't we at the Dove Awards? We should just go. We just had this conversation. We were like, we should just go. And Semler had actually gone the year prior as well. Excuse me. And so we were like, well, let's do something fun with it. So we learned that you can just buy tickets to anybody can go buy a ticket to the Dove Awards. And so we found this section in the nosebleeds that hadn't sold very many tickets yet. And we were like, let's buy our tickets there, and then let's just put it out on our socials and just invite anybody who wants to come with us. And so we did, and then Derek decided he wanted to be a part of it as well, and I went in full drag, Semler went as themselves, Derek came in a dress, because Derek is a provocateur and just always loves pushing those buttons for people. And then we had probably 30 people who just came in from all over, literally, folks from Wisconsin came, I think some from California came, people came from all over to just join us at the Dove Awards. And our goal was we weren't coming in to be annoying or we weren't holding up signs or anything. We're just gonna be a physical presence in the room. We're just gonna be a bunch of queers in the corner, having our own little good time, celebrating the fact that Semler and I had this great year, right? And for me, I really looked at it as more of an exploratory, expedition, because I grew up watching the Dove Awards. I was curious. I wanted to know what it was like. It had been a long time since I cared about being a Christian musician. That almost happened by accident. Whereas when I was a teenager, that's all I wanted to do, right? So I didn't. I didn't care that, I knew that the Dove Awards were never going to nominate me or my music, but we were like, let's just go see what it's all about. So we got there, and, there had been enough of a people were aware of what we were doing because we had put it on social media and, some outlets picked up on it, that kind of thing. So people were kind of expecting us, and there were a lot of eyes on us as we walked in, and we went to our little nosebleed section. And along the way, people started coming up to me and just kind of tapping me and being like, hey, thank you so much for what you're doing. We really appreciate it. You're here. I had probably 15 people throughout the course of the night. Some came and found us in our nosebleed section just to tap us and say, hey, thank you. And the first couple times it happened, I was like, oh, this is cool. Folks are responding in a way I didn't expect them to. But then it kept happening. And by the 10th, 11th, 12th person, I was just looking around this room, this massive room of industry professionals, the people who make Christian music happen. And I'm like, are you all just secretly affirming? What is going on with you people? Why are Semler and I having to come here and do this work for you? Where's the representation in the industry? Who are the people who are gonna take that first step and sign a queer artist? Or and still, obviously, to this day, like that does not exist yet within the industry, within the gatekeepers of the traditional Christian music industry. And so by the end of the night, I was kind of angry. I was really pissed off at that, first of all, because I was like, this does nothing for me. A bunch of people tapping me and quietly whispering thanks. Like, boo to that. What I need, what we all need, what the kids who grow up, the queer kids who grow up listening to Christian music need, is for y'all to hire a queer artist and let their music be heard and put them on the radio and put them in your magazines and put them in your Lifeway Christian bookstores. I don't even know if they still have those or not, but like, I grew up going to one called the Carpenter Shop in Asheville. So that was the first thing that pissed me off. The second thing that really was unsettling to me about the night was actually what was woven in through all of the speeches and the pre-written bits. I just never had a clearer picture of Christian nationalism being intentional and purposeful and really undergirding a whole industry. And so I left feeling icky, really, really icky. I listened to an artist who I thought, before that, I just kind of thought was benign, like a good singer with like whatever, cheesy Christian pop music. And she like gave one of the most Christian nationalist speeches I've ever heard. And I was just like, I don't even know if she's aware of what a prop she is in this industry. And so anyway, all that to say, it was gross. I will never go back. But we had a really fun after party. We went to our own bar afterwards, and we had a really great time, the 30 of us together. And I learned a lot, and what I learned is that I'm not interested in the traditional industry. I'm still interested in, representing, from the sidelines and finding my own way in kind of thing, as we can do now, thanks to indie music and our ability to release records independently. But no, the industry I look at it the way I look at evangelicalism. I'm like, I would be fine seeing that just entirely self-destruct and go away. Yep. So many. I do have a secret desire. I think if I do anything else in like Christian music, it would be to make a We Are the World style record, just a track. And just rope in as many, start with Derek and Jen and Plum and Sixpence None the Richer and Jars of Clay and the ones who've been vocal already and say, hey, let's all get on a track together and then rope in as many others as we can convince to do it, just so that it's kind of this unmissable, like you have to look at this. And because I feel like that could be something that maybe shifts the needle. We just need like one of those labels to just hire a queer artist, just do it. And then I feel like some dominoes would fall. But I just don't believe that anybody has the guts to do it yet. So, too bad. We'll just do things our way.
We've got time for one or two more, maybe?
Yeah, one over here.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne. Hi. So I work with a youth organization that specifically teaches girls and queer youth music. And we meet in a church, a very welcoming, inclusive church. Oh, I took the microphone away from my mouth. So I was wondering, this comes up a lot when we are training new staff members, how to separate church from the trauma that a lot of kids have experienced. So I was wondering if, this is a very hot mic, I was wondering if you had any pointers.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing that work. That's beautiful. One of the things I do at my shows when I'm in a church, I usually will kind of ask, who here this is your home church? And half the people will raise their hands. And I'll be like, who goes to a different church? And like a quarter of the people will raise their hands. And then I'll be like, and who is in a church for the first time in a very long time? And then the rest of the people typically raise their hands. And I do not take that lightly. that people, I know it can be a massive hurdle to come to a Flamy Grant show. And I don't just play churches, by the way. I really try hard to actually only have about 25% of my shows be in churches now. That's our current goal. But again, it's also it's that volunteer position, right? That still does matter for the people who are in that space. But I also know that it can be, if the only Flamy show that's near you is in a church, like, it's a big deal to ask you to come into a space where you have physical like trauma that manifests because of what you've been through. And so I do try to address it, and also just let them know that I'm first and foremost, like, I got you. I can't always, vouch for the entirety of the church organization that I'm coming into. It's just me. I don't have a team. So I can't like do that kind of research everywhere I go. But I can say that, hey, if this church is willing to have me come and stand on their stage, it's probably a safe space for you. And at the very least, like, I'm going to make sure it's a safe. Nothing is going to hurt you tonight while you're here, right? So like, I take that responsibility on myself because I'm the one who's chosen to take that contract, right? So I just think like very visible vocal support and acknowledgement of how hard that is, I think can go a long way. I usually do feel like there's a bit of a tension release after I kind of make that joke. I was, trying to make it fun and light. Not my whole show. We do get into the trauma with some of those songs, but I think just as much support as we can offer specifically to young folks who are still experiencing some of that, but not even just the young folks. Sometimes it's the old folks, who like their trauma is 50 years old and they're like, I guess I'll go to this church to hear this drag queen. Yeah, it's a big responsibility and not one I think any of us should take lightly if we're doing work in those kinds of spaces. So if you're doing like regular work, I think this is what I would do if I was like working with one church over and over again. I would try to make an effort to make sure I know that community is genuinely fully safe, fully affirming, that there's none of this like bait and switch stuff that's going to happen, because that is a big problem still in churches, where they're like, come as you are, God loves everyone. And then, 2 months in, you're like, hey, I'd like to lead a Bible study, or I'd like to serve on the worship team, or I'd like to, make cupcakes. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, only straights can do that. So no baiting and switching, none of that, so it's hard work because you're also putting your own self in that space. And generally, those of us who are doing that work have our own trauma to deal with, which is, I feel you and I love you and I appreciate that you're doing that work. So thank you for holding space for those kids.
All right, last question.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, what is the number one piece of advice, or maybe two, you would give a mom, aka me, who has an 8.5-year-old boy who shows some signs of queerness or drag potentially, loves makeup and all the things, to foster him while at the same time protect him from the bullies?
Yeah. Oof. Wow. I'm not a parent, but I was once a fancy boy. I spent so much of my life hiding. Look at me now. Can you imagine me hiding? But I was a timid, afraid kid, and I was constantly on the lookout for those bullies and the people who were gonna clock it. And I worked so hard. At performative masculinity. I didn't even realize that that's what it was. I genuinely thought I wanted to fit in and be one of the guys. And it took me so many years to realize that all that was just to so I could feel safe, in the spaces I was in. So whatever you can do to provide safe space, even if it's just at home, I feel like if I had even had that at home, that would have been a game changer for me. All the bullies I had at school, that was nothing. They were always going to bully me, right? But if I had been able to go home and not felt like my own family was going to do the same, and props to my some of my family who's come a long way, but at the time it was not home wasn't a safe space for me. But if I had had that, I think that would have been a massive game changer. So the fact that your kid has you is already like such a great leg up, and that's, I think, the best, most important thing you can give them. I will say one time my dad went to school and spoke to the administration about a guy who was older kid who was bullying me. And I think that's literally the one time I can ever recall my dad standing up for me. And it was massive too in the moment. So I feel like if your kid knows that you have his back, and maybe just like home is the first safe space where you encourage that creativity and give room for that outlet, and then see where it goes from there. But that's huge. To have you as his parent is already huge. So good for you. Thank you for being the parent that your kid needs. Yeah.
So you talked about good church that are out there, and part of the reason that this whole thing is happening tonight is that Capital City Pride partnered with something new that we created about 14 months ago, which is called the Rainbow Faith Coalition. There are now 24 churches in the metro area. Yeah, I haven't even finished talking about it. That's great. There's now 24 churches in the metro area who have signed on to a statement that requires that an LGBTQ person can be at all levels of leadership in the church. So none of that bait and switch thing, that they've gone through a process to understand how to be an authentic and an inclusive environment to all LGBTQ people. And so they're now working together to do all sorts of programs and things in town to include worship at Pride Fest in just about a month. Actually, a month from today. A month from today is Sunday of Pride Fest. There's even a few of the pastors from those churches in the room tonight. I know Pastor Travis from Norwalk is here. Pastor Jordan from West Moines United Methodist is here. Pastor Debbie is here from Downtown Disciples. Pastor Debbie's husband, who I can never remember your name because you're Pastor Debbie's husband to me. It's Bill. Thank you. Pastor Bill from the Lutheran Church is here. So we have all sorts of troublemaking pastors in the room here tonight.
Yeah.
We have a graphic. Can you put up the graphic for the concert that's tomorrow night? So we invite you to Plymouth Church down tomorrow night for a concert with Flamy at 7 p.m. That's going to be all 24 churches together supporting that event. So I hope that you can not only come yourself, but maybe bring someone who needs to hear Flamy Grant. Because those are the folks we really want to have in the room to help bring change. But if we felt like it was wrong to gather you here and just talk. Does that feel wrong to you? So we get one song to tease you for tomorrow night to come back and see us at Plymouth Church. So Flamy, give us one.
You got it. Well, I'll do one that I probably won't do tomorrow night. So this is just for us. I'm going to do Fortune Teller. So this is a song. It's a song about queer wisdom. It's a song I started writing because I would get this. I would get the same questions over and over again when I first, came out, and then really came out. Because when I first came out, I was like, well, I'm same-sex attracted. Like it takes a minute to get all the way to, I'm gay. And then I'm a drag queen. Also, I have gender identity differences. As I was going through that process, the same kinds of conversations kept happening over and over and over again with folks from my past, from past churches I had been involved in, and they'd all have the same Bible verses they wanted to quote at me, the same thing, and they'd be like, "Can we get coffee?" Never get the coffee. And so I started writing this song that I wanted to have a song that I could just like give to people when they wanted to have these conversations, for the folks from my past, and say, here's all the answers. Like, I already know what you're going to ask me. And then it ended up being more than that. I think it became a song that I just call it my song about queer wisdom, because there's a wisdom that you can only learn from being who you are, right? And queerness gives a wisdom that you can only glean by being a queer person. BIPOC folks have wisdom that that I will never understand, right? Not firsthand, and so we all have that gift, and I think that's what this song ended up becoming, and it's called Fortune Teller. Fortune teller, I know every word you're gonna say. I'm a headstrong, lifelong city dweller. I can take you where we're going by the fastest way. We're gonna be okay. I travel time, I'm here from the future. I can show you how this all turns out. I could save you with the data in my computer. We could flourish in the flood and avoid the drought. We're gonna make it out. You feel it in your bones, but your head is moving slow. I'm a scientist, I got a method and a measure for observable, reliable, repeatable fact. I'm a decorated educator in the field of pleasure. I've learned a lot of lessons I can reenact. Yeah, I've been keeping track. You sense that I am true, but your heart is split in two. I'm a prophetess singing my story, a dressed up, effervescent, ethical fraud. But this world ain't ready for an allegory, no. We're still waiting on a literal God. I just smile and nod. You have intuition, and it's telling you the story isn't
This is the end of our series, so we want to say a quick word of thanks to the DMPA for hosting us all year this year from September through to now. So thank you to the team in the back who represent us for us. Thank you for our ASL interpretation tonight. Thank you to Jessica. Amanda is not able to be here tonight, but thank you to Jessica and Amanda who have facilitated all season. I forgot to get these handed out to you at the beginning, but we secretly did it in the middle of the show. So this has two things on it that I really want to draw your attention to. The first side, where it says May events, not more May events, has the link to the QR code that takes you to all the events that are coming up for Capital City Pride, Pride Fest itself, but so many things that I can't even begin to talk about them. So scan that to find all those things. Just today, we opened the registrations for meet and greets with Bob the Drag Queen and Slater. So if you want to meet them in person at Pride Fest, you need to sign up quickly because we will sell out on those. And then on the back side, on the side that has the more May events, there's a QR code that everyone in the room should scan, because that's the place where you can make a donation to say that this is worth more of Capital City Pride's time, effort, money, and investment. So scan that, maybe make a $5 or $10 donation, because this is worth every bit of the price of a Starbucks or it's not even $5 anymore, really. Nothing is $5 anymore. But
Thoughts and tariffs.
we got to import that shit. But please, seriously, if you can support this work, that would really be important. And most importantly of all, bring folks back tomorrow night to see the concert. So thanks for being here tonight. And Flamy will hang out up here if you want to come up and get a picture as you go.